The day after the NFL regular season is over is normally coined as Black Monday, where coaches, GMs, coordinators all can get fired. And we got a lot of that, but it was more so of a grayish Monday, not a Black Monday, because there was one coach and GM combo in particular that I am stunned they did not get fired. Let's jump right into it. The New York Football Giants, Daboll and the GM are coming back. How, Sway? How? Quote, they will continue in their respective roles with the organization, Giants president John Mara announced in a statement. We remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented and their vision for our team. Now, that's the statement. That's the one that get out to the press release, to the media, to the fans, et cetera, et cetera. Talking to the Giants press, though, he was moving a little different. So to recap the John Mara press conference, again, the press release, very different than the press conference. John Mara spoke at length, I think it was about 15 minutes. But to recap, he hates the defense. He wants Brian Daboll to give up play calling. The roster isn't better than 3 years ago. He's more frustrated than anyone. They didn't tank, but just lost to the Eagles' backups. But he believes they're the right guys in terms of Brian and Joe for the job. Which one is it, John Mara? You can't have it both ways. He wants it to be one way, but it's the other way. He's trying to tell the public everything is fine here. Don't worry about it. It's the burning meme, sitting inside the burning house. Everything is fine. No, it's not. The Giants are not even mid. They're trash. They're stink. They're a clown show. The Giants, I used to work for WFAN, which is the flagship home of the Giants, and you get very much brought into the whole thing of the Giants are the holy grail. The Giants are known as one of the most legendary franchises in the National Football League, and you buy into that. To see this franchise that thinks so highly of themselves look like a complete disaster, look like a complete dumpster fire, much like the team that they share the building with, the stadium with. It's amazing to me that John Mara could talk with both sides of his face like this. This right here is a joke. It's an absolute joke that the Giants think that they could just fool the fans yet again. When will they admit the mistake? They made the mistake of believing that the team that went to the playoffs a couple of years ago was actually a team that's ascending, was actually a team that was nearing an apex. They had turned a corner. It was all fool's gold. I was right here doing podcasts, doing interviews, doing radio hits, telling to anyone who would listen, do not drink the Kool-Aid on this Giant shit. That team had the NFL's easiest strength of schedule. That team was not good. The entire NFC East had the easiest schedule that year, and 3 of the 4 teams made the playoffs. That was not a coincidence. But the Giants took the bait. They bought in. They thought that Daboll had fixed Daniel Jones. They thought they had fixed him by, well, he's doing less turnovers. He's not fumbling the ball. He's not turning the ball over. He must be fixed. Let's throw him $160 million. That's really about 79. But still, you invested in a QB who showed you no real reason to give him money. When it comes down to it, the Giants lied to their fans yesterday. They lied to their fans yesterday by making them believe that everything is fine. The press release said everything is fine. The press conference says, I'm running out of patience. So which one is it? If everything is fine, how can everything be fine, but you're also running out of patience? It can't be both things. Your GM got at the dais and told the media, I wouldn't change what we did on how the Giants handled their quarterback position during his time with New York. He wouldn't change the fact that they gave Daniel Jones $160 million. That alone should get him fired. The Dallas Cowboys truly are the gift that keeps on giving. You see it here, Jerry Jones not committal about Cowboys plans. Mike McCarthy's quote, done absolutely nothing to diminish my opinion of him as a coach. So there's a lot to unpack here, but the bottom line is that Jerry Jones is going to do exactly what he wants to do. And that's why if you're a Cowboys fan, you really are faced with the conundrum of, do I keep rooting for this team even though I know the owner does not really care about winning? Because he only wants to win in his specific way of winning, which is he handpicks everything, okay? It's not about winning at all costs. It's about winning at Jerry's cost. until Jerry gets out the way, which we know he's incapable of doing it. He wouldn't do it with Jimmy Johnson. He wouldn't do it with Parcells. It's just not, he's not on that type of time, right? He picks lame ducks, and there's no lamer duck, as you see in this clip of him walking away. Then your man's Mike McCarthy. Your man's Mike McCarthy is out here just, lame duck. And never forget that Mike McCarthy lied in his job interview with the Cowboys. He lied about his awareness of analytics, advanced metrics, so on and so forth. He lied about his knowledge and still got the job and admitted it in front of everybody in a press conference, and he was not fired on the spot. Can you imagine a scenario where you get hired for a job and not that long after you get the job, you admit in front of the world that you lied in your job interview for that job and nothing happens to you? Only because Jerry knows at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who the coach is. He won a Super Bowl with Barry Switzer. It doesn't really matter who the coach is. He just wants to make sure when it comes to the reasons for the Dallas Cowboys winning, it begins and ends with him. Robert Kraft has some explaining to do because he just got rid of Jerod Mayo after just one season on the job. You mean the man that wears Air Force Ones, throws the rock up and goes to Rock Nation brunches, fired a black man after just 1 year on the job? Is that y'all man's? It was all good when he was, fighting for Meek to get out, right? All right. Anyway, Jerod Mayo's gone about the paint, and this roster is extremely similar to the one that Bill Belichick had last year. So I guess, well, if you could fire Bill Belichick after the way that roster performed, I guess you can fire Jerod Mayo after 1 year. But the fact of the matter is that the roster did not really get any type of upheaval. Yes, they got Drake May, and eventually he got in there and started and looked the part at times, and they sneakily got Joe Milton, and Joe Milton might really be the QB of the future more so than Drake May. They might have a QB controversy over there, but all that will push to the side. Jerod Mayo 1 year. Is Mike Vrabel really worth it? What have you seen from Mike Vrabel that makes you think that style of coaching very much got a lot of Dan Campbell in them, but the thing about the Dan Campbell thing is that Dan Campbell thing would not be working without all that talent. I don't care what you do with the type of rhetoric you want to spew in terms of the grit, the grind, the whole thing of matriculation down the football field, whatever nonsense you want to spew, whatever platitudes you want to spew, if you don't have the talent, it doesn't matter what type of Newt Rockney win one for the Gipper speech you give. It doesn't matter. All that shit goes out the window. The Dan Campbell stuff in Detroit wouldn't work if he didn't have all that talent on both sides of the ball. If he didn't have Ben Johnson and he didn't have Aaron Glenn and he didn't have all them first-round picks and second-round picks and savvy draft picks, all that tough, we're going to eat your kneecaps or whatever, that stuff wouldn't fly. Because if that's the case, why didn't it fly in Miami for Dan Campbell? He was talking that same type of talk in Miami and they ran him up out of there. How come Jerod Mayo couldn't get at least another year? Matt Eberflus with the Bears got year after year after year, despite showing us that he could not coach year after year after year. But Jerod Mayo, who to me didn't really have anything striking. I mean, shit, how many years did Brandon Staley coach? Brandon Staley, Zach Taylor. Look at all the years. We just talked about the Giants. Daboll. Robert Saleh. How many years did those coaches get? And Jerod Mayo can't even get a second year? Was he a lame duck this whole time? Did he know he was a lame duck this whole time? Speaking of Mike Vrabel, the Jets have also interviewed Mike Vrabel, and this is quite the list in terms of head coaching interview candidates so far. This is, of course, via your man Schefter. Vrabel, Ron Rivera, Rex Ryan, Brian Flores, a lot of retread names, a lot of guys you've heard before. Josh McCown, Joe Brady, Matt Nagy. Why would anyone interview Matt Nagy? Why? Arthur Smith, Brian Griese, Aaron Glenn's a hot candidate, Vance Joseph, Bobby Slowick. So this is quite the list. Here's the thing with the Jets. The Jets have cleaned house. The Jets don't have a GM. Until the Jets get a GM, why would any coach sign up for this job? Go name a GM. Or let me package a deal together with me and the eventual GM and let's like tag team it like that. But no way, if I'm a qualified head coaching candidate, am I going to sign up to be a head coach and I have no idea who my GM is going to be. That to me is like really rolling the dice and playing with fire. Now, if you're Matt Nagy, you take the job because he doesn't deserve the job, so he's lucky as hell to get a second chance. But if I'm Brian Flores, knowing that this is probably it, if Brian Flores gets a head coaching gig, it's probably a wrap after this one. The man sued the league and is still employed. He played a dangerous game and found a way to wiggle his way out of it and get another gig, a few coaching gigs. Now you're going to be potentially a head coaching gig? I would not take this Jets gig unless I know who the GM is going to be and that person's already named and signed to a contract. Finally, I leave you with the Jaguars. Doug Peterson is gone. A Super Bowl winning head coach is gone. Now, this is not a surprise to anybody, and it's kind of just been a running joke online where it's like, well, what week are they going to fire him? They went over there to London and lost in horrific fashion multiple weeks in a row. It was just kind of a thing of waiting to happen. But the most interesting part about this Jaguar thing to me, because it's similar to the Bears situation, a lot of folks around the league were thinking that if the Jags get rid of Peterson, that also means that Trent Baalke is gone as well, the GM. That is not the case. They're just getting rid of Peterson for right now, and Trent Baalke still has a job. So again, just like I talked about with the Jets, if I'm a qualified coaching candidate, why would I sign and take another job with a GM that I'm not necessarily aligned with, right? Because what coaching candidate from this list for the Jets, which one of them is aligned with Trent Baalke? Now, they might have some sort of kindred relationship and stuff like that, but in terms of a GM and a coach being together and figuring it out, we don't see that here. You really want me to believe that Ben Johnson is going to lead the Detroit Lions and Brad Holmes, who has put on a masterclass in terms of how to be an impactful GM and a hit with damn near every pick, to go to the Bears, who have tricked off multiple picks and multiple free agent signings, to the Jaguars, who haven't been able to figure out just what the hell they have in terms of a roster. You really want Ben Johnson to walk away from that machine that is built in Detroit, which is a machine that has a window of about another 3 years to where they could potentially go get a Lombardi, to go to Hallis Hall in Chicago, to go down to Chad Kahn, who thought last year or coming into this year, this was, quote, the best team assembled in franchise history. And now he's getting rid of the coach, but he's keeping the GM. So I guess he's still living by this statement. I guess Shad Khan is still saying this is the best team assembled in franchise history because it can't be the GM's fault. It must be the coach's fault. That's the ineptitude. You want Ben Johnson, who has a chance to be the next McVay, the next Shanahan, the next genius to be given the keys and to flourish. You want him to go down and deal with Trent Baalke and Shad Khan. You want him to go over to Chicago, who he kills twice a year, and go deal with Hallis Hall and Ryan Poles? No. Ineptitude. These are poverty franchises. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears are poverty franchises. Why would any head coaching candidate worth a damn give themselves up to an incumbent GM? It makes no sense. So I don't know what these teams are doing. Either clean house or don't. The Bears would be better keeping Eberflus and Ryan Poles than just bringing in whoever and a new coach and Brian Poles. The Jaguars will be better with Peterson and Baalke riding this thing out until the wheels fall off, instead of going out there and going to go get Ron Rivera and Trent Baalke. It doesn't mean anything because if the guy who's picking the players is trash, it don't matter who the coach is.